finna get your ass the game, man. You know I break it down. Come on, man, you know it's Bain.
Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to Bain Break It Down Forex. It's your boy Big Bain and this thing. And you guys guessed it, another week, another opportunity for us to make some money in the Forex market. So let's get right to it. All right, boom, guys. Over on the dollar, my expectations were for the dollar to rise after we got this nice retracement, pullback, correction, all right, into this level of demand with this fair value gap. So this recording is a little bit late, right? So it is Sunday right now at 7:30, and you guys can see the market is open and the dollar has already shot up. So what my predictions were have already started to manifest itself, all right? But don't get it twisted with the dollar rising tremendously, all right? Even though, you know, we do have an opportunity to fill this imbalance to the left, and there's plenty of liquidity behind these highs that we can go to take out, right? But we have to get past this level of resistance first, all right? And with the way that things are going with the economy and the uncertainty, government shutdown, you name it, right? It's all potentially going to lead to a weaker dollar. We know the dollar is weak. In reality, right, it's getting you less and less of things that you need to succeed, right? The basics, the necessities. So the value of the dollar isn't good. And then if they, you know, decrease interest rates, right, at the end of October, right, then that will also, you know, cause the dollar, the currency itself, to be less attractable, right, to investors and what have you, right? It may also cause inflation to go up, right? We start borrowing more, and then, you know, we start spending more. So you guys know how it all goes. I'm saying all that to pretty much say that there's a chance that the dollar is going to be falling pretty soon, right? And with knowing that, all we really need to do is look at those levels of resistance or supply that we may have to determine when that turnaround might be. So again, this is our first level of resistance where we might get that drop, right, to fill these demand areas, or we may push up this week somewhere up to this supply area before we get that major drop. All right, time will tell. Again, interest rates at the end of the month, so there's a possibility that we'll get up here, right, towards the end of the month, and, you know, we'll be in this area. Then when they decide to cut interest rates, that might be when we get the drop. All right, guys, but for right now, still bullish on the dollar, being that we broke out of this with a fair value gap. We may get a little bit of a retracement back down to fill that gap, right? And then we may start to rise up. So watch out for that. Bullish on the dollar. All right, guys, moving over in a second here. All right, over to the JPY. Now this is something, because I was expecting the JPY to fall, and again, guys, it has fell, but you can't see it, right? Because the candle's right here, right? So it gapped from where it was at 37 or 734 all the way down to 725 on market open, guys. So who knows what economic news was behind that? I do know JPY had something with their interest rates last week, I believe, and maybe we're now just seeing the effects of that. Regardless, guys, this caused all of my JPY pairs to explode, and this is what I was mentioning a little earlier. So just coming over here, looking at our JPY pairs, all right, guys, look at that, right? JPY shot through the roof, all right, and pushed up. CAD JPY shot through the roof, and I'm talking about, you know, this is unprecedented for, you know, traders to see, you know, on a daily basis, hardly even, you know, every few months or whatever, right? But 137 pips right out the gate. Swiss franc also pushed all the way up to here, right? Huge gap, huge imbalance, went 200 pips on open, right? Euro JPY did the same exact thing, and you can see my team was ready for the buy position. We just thought that it was going to drop first and then go, but, you know, the markets have other plans, and it is what it is, right? So EJ took off, and everybody's favorite GJ, right, also took off, right? So you can bet that we're going to get some sort of retracement back down to these levels with all of this imbalance, right? Because clearly there was an overwhelming amount of demand and institutional buying at these levels. So price will eventually make its way back here, right? So we may have the opportunity to sell down and then buy back up. But just want to let you guys know that's what the JPY, what I was expecting the JPY to do throughout this week, from this line to this line is the entire week, right? And you can see, right, I had it mapped out, but in, just the market open, it cleaned everything. So now I do expect some sort of rise coming back up to this supply level. But again, guys, we'll see, right? Time will tell. This might keep dropping. You just never know. All right, over to odd dollar, right? Because I'm bullish on the dollar, I'm bearish on odd dollar, right? Looking at this from a higher time frame here on the 4-hour, right? I can see price basically pushing up, sweeping this liquidity that we have here, tapping into the supply, and then dropping. All right, so with that, guys, you guys can have your position up here at supply, and then again just aim for any one of your demand levels. That's 140, and that's 216 pips to the lowest demand. Liquidity to be swept and imbalance to be balanced. All right, so I'm aiming for the gusto. Bearish on odd dollar for 216 pips to the downside. All right, over to euro dollar, same thing. All right, we're building up liquidity in this consolidation. Looks like we swept it to the low, so we're going to sweep it to the high, right? Possibly fill this imbalance that we have here, tap into supply, and then do the drop. So I'm expecting a move up to this supply area, all right? And then I'm expecting euro dollar to drippity drop down for 205 pips to the downside. Guys, I'm bearish on euro dollar. All right, over to pound dollar. All right, another favorite. Right, so again, it's already given us a bit of an evening star in which it could just continue falling to this demand level right away. But what I believe is going to happen is that we're going to get some sort of, again, because the dollar just bounced up, right? So we're going to get some sort of pullback on the dollar, which is going to cause pound dollar to push up, right? We got that supply here, plus this will be a bit of engineered liquidity, all right, at this particular high. You guys can see this more on a lower time frame. Let's try the 1 hour. All right, and whoop, there it is. Now we can see all the details of what we need to see. There's that supply, and here's that new high that it just made, that lower high, right? So there was liquidity all here. We came and swept that, but you can see we have not displaced below this low. So there's a high possibility of us pushing up to sweep this liquidity, tap into supply, and then give a drop. So you can get away with, probably 20 pip stop loss behind the supply area, right? Maybe you make it tight as you want, right? 11 pips. Here's 40 pips if you get above the liquidity area, all right? But I think we're just going to tap into supply, right? And we're going to get the party going from there. So go ahead and, get away with the 15 to 20 pip stop loss and 175 pip take profit. All right, bearish on pound dollar. All right, over to New Zealand dollar, same old thing. It's same with AU, EU, and GU. Right, I'm expecting that push up to sweep liquidity, tap into supply. All right, that supply is going to be a little bit more fine-tuned to probably right about here somewhere. All right, but either way, looking for that push up, and then for New Zealand dollar to fall. All right, 100 pips on the table, bearish on New Zealand dollar. All right, so here on dollar CAD, all right, it is, it's bullish, right? But I don't know if it actually blasted off like the dollar did. I don't see any gaps up, but I won't be surprised if we see some sort of crazy push up on dollar CAD, in some form of sometime with the market just opening. Either way, I'm bullish, just I'm not quite sure where I want to buy from just yet, because it looks like we did get the retest and we did get the nice bullish body candle, and we've since then continued to go higher. So we may just push through and break above this high and just keep rising. So maybe worth buying it right here, but maybe I'll look for price to dip down just a little bit, because I do see a little fair value gap between the two right here, and just get into a lower time frame, trying to see if I can spot it better. And yeah, so that fair value gap has already been filled. Okay, so really all we need is a nice sized bull candle to break above this particular candle here where we're retesting. All right, so if it does that, then we're good to go for a long position on dollar CAD, and it'll look something like this, right? Kind of get your stop below here and not right below the fair value gap, because these are equal lows, so that might get swept, right? So it's a little bit more wiggle room. That's only, it's less than 7 pips it looks like. Yeah, so we'll just go with 10 pips, that won't hurt. All right, and we got our 1 to 2, 22 pips, so not a whole lot to get out of dollar CAD, but it may go way further than we're expecting here from a higher time frame. All right, but it's very tricky, right? Because I kind of feel like it's gonna fall, but so far it's still bullish, so we got to go with the flow. All right, bullish on dollar CAD over to dollar CHF. And again, I don't see any gap up, but I do see imbalance here that we haven't swept. Also see these equal highs sitting right here for liquidity to be swept. So I do, want to take dollar CHF for a buy, but I would rather see it come down to this demand level, right? Sweep this little bit of imbalance and sweep this liquidity and tap into demand, and then rise up, giving me 130 pips, possibly more, right? As the dollar will be bullish throughout the week. Just for right now, out the gate, it may make that retracement before it rises. All right, guys, so bullish on dollar CHF. All right, dollar JPY. All right, my team bought it from the low, and this is how it go, guys. Almost hit our take profit, taking out the high of the previous week that it made, guys. And I'm just talking killer trade. All right, my boy Ghost just posted a nice screenshot of his profits, and look at that, 305. All right, shout out to the crib one time for them hurricanes. All right, with that category 5 on FSU, you already know what time it is. Throw them U's up. All right, we taking care of business, baby. 5-0 and more to go. All right, but we landed smack down. So yeah, we winning in the trades too, guys. All right, get with the team, forexwithbain.com. Click on the link for the Discord and tap in. All right, you won't regret it, I promise you. All right, here we go over to, so I don't know why we jumped to SPY. Let me check that out. I might be on the wrong list here. Oh, because I got them collapsed. All right, let me fix that. I'm like, wait, where SPY came from? All right, we on pound odd, guys, and all right, so we got a nice falling wedge on pound odd. These are very hard to trade because there's liquidity sitting on both sides. Now it looks like liquidity was swept here, right? The previous week low looks like it was swept, and then we're starting to rise up. I do feel like we're gonna we're gonna go bullish, right, on pound odd ultimately, but I just don't know if that sweep is complete. All right, I do see a bit of a fair value gap sitting right here, all right, that we may go and take out or tap into before we rise. So I'm more willing to take a position there long than where price currently is. All right, guys, but you can see, again, beautiful falling wedge, right? Just needs to tap into that FVG, give us a nice bull candle, and from there, guys, we should take a long position all the way up with sweeping the liquidity at the top, right? The buy side liquidity, probably sweeping this liquidity of equal highs, and then tapping into supply, guys. It's already 239 pips, so we don't even need all of that, right? We can just bring it right to the high. That's 208. All right, and then our stops can be right here, guys. Once again, 305, but really that's just 30 pips on this pound odd buy position. All right, and seeing all that 305, it makes me feel like this is going to be a great week. All right, but bullish on pound odd, guys. Don't miss out on it. All right, moving over to pound CAD, and look, I'm already in a sell position on it, right? There's liquidity behind this trend line. There's imbalance to the low, right? And a little bit more imbalance, possibly. Maybe this is engineered liquidity. but it did tap into this demand level, so that's mitigated. But we'll probably sweep right to this imbalance, all right, before we rise up. But for right now, we are bullish, got a little bit of a triple top, if you will, right? Just seeing that we're having a hard time making higher highs, all right? That's what that's all about. So for right now, right, we can continuously get a drop on pound cat, getting to, like I said, this imbalance for over 100 pips. I'm bearish on pound cat, all right? Might get a little lower than that too, maybe take out this previous week low and then fill this imbalance down here. So very good, setup right now, guys, to take it short on pound cat. All right, moving over to pound CHF. All right, and here again, this was a buy that I was telling everybody to get to, because we had this falling channel, right? We started to break above, we did the retest, and then we took off right to the supply level. Again, this is markups from previous weeks, just to show you guys that it's the before and after, when you can see it, that you become a believer in what price is actually going to do. So now we had that major push up, right? And now we've got that retracement, that correction back down to this demand level, right? So we'll probably end up sweeping to, or pushing down further to this demand and then getting ready to rise. So I'm looking for the buy on pound CHF, but I needed to get low into our discount area, all right? And then I'll be looking to catch it right back up, potentially to the supply level for 123 pips. I am bullish on pound CHF. All right, over to pound JPY, y'all know the story, right? It already took off. So because we're breaking all of these highs, there's definitely potential to come all the way back down. So we'll get rid of the long position, and this is now support, if you will. All right, so we'll have to get down to the lower time frame to start to see when we get price to start breaking lows. All right, so far we haven't broken any lows, so it's not time to sell it just yet, but it will be soon, right, if we start seeing structure break lows. All right, and at that point, that's where we want to go ahead and start looking for our sell opportunities to get about 272 pips to the downside. All right, bearish right now on pound JPY, but I was bullish before the market opened, and man, was I right. All right, moving over to pound New Zealand. All right, this is beautiful, guys. Nice liquidity here, little imbalance here that hasn't been filled, imbalance all to the downside, liquidity off of this trend line, and we're going to get all of that, guys, right? So we may tap into this supply area before we drop, or we may just drop right now and continue falling. Either way, pound New Zealand looks really, really good for a sell opportunity, right? So if you can get it here and have your stop above here and risk that amount of pips, right, it'll still play out. It's just, you got to have big risks on it. All right, but if you don't want to risk that much, then try to wait until you get some sort of retracement, pullback, or correction where price is rising or has risen. All right, that way you can get in to a sell from a higher price, because that's the name of the game, right? We sell high and we buy low. All right, but looking for that run up to sell pound New Zealand, and I'm short on pound New Zealand. All right, moving over to silver. All right, silver giving us a little something, right? A little bearish divergence, but silver's been just as tricky as gold, right? We keep expecting the fall, right? We get a little dip here, we get a little dip there, but we never get that massive push to the downside. So as much as I would like to be bearish on silver, guys, I gotta wait, right? It has to potentially sweep these highs and then give me a nice bearish candle like this, and then I'll take it. But you can see, even with that nice bearish candle where it should have continued to drop, it just kept rising, right? And that's with all the uncertainty of what's going on. Silver and gold are those safe haven assets, so people just continue to buy them. All right, but be careful selling, because again, it could still be that that situation of people just purchasing gold and silver, making it rise to all-time highs week after week. All right, but I would like to see some bears show up and potentially look to catch a quick sell, right? But for now, I'm not gonna really mess with it. All right, so indecisive, but a little bearish on silver. All right, over to gold. All right, my team did catch this major drop here. That was about 75 points, right? And since then, it has gotten up to these supplies and has just broken through. So again, I'll have to clean all this up to, mark up the chart once again. But gold is bullish. All right, very bullish right now. But like I said, we may see another drop just depending on what market structure we get throughout the week. All right, so we'll see. It's very, very tricky right now, but maybe we want to hold off on selling, right? Maybe we want to look for those buying opportunities, because again, we are breaking highs and gold is almost at 4K, guys. Just ridiculous. All right, 4K an ounce, and yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it made it up there. All right, but bullish for now on gold, with potential for at least a retracement of sorts, not necessarily a reversal or drop, but I mean, anything's possible. All right, Kevin Garnett. So boom, over on what is this, natural gas. All right, looking at it on the 4-hour time frame, and guys, from my last weekly watch list, I told you that we had the possibility to get up to the supply. It looks like we're going to do that, right? So we've been rising, broke above this liquidity, respecting this as new demand, or new support rather. All right, and we can continue to rise up to that level. That's where I have my short position to sell natural gas from this area. All right, so you may want to look into taking a buy position right now. All right, oh, that's not the right one. It'll be this one. All right, so you may want a long position like this. All right, and taking it up to that supply level, get you a 1 to 3, and then turn around and sell it. All right, but bullish on natural gas. Potentially, we're gonna get the drop once we get up to that supply area. All right, we got to see how price reacts. Okay, but moving over to oil. All right, and oil has begun to rise. All right, looking at it from a lower time frame, so it looks like it did a gap as well. All right, so boom, we shot all the way down to demand, and now we're trying to push up. This is a qualified morning star with these 3 candles. All right, so there is very much so a possibility for us to continue rising up. All right, guys, so for right now, I would expect oil to fill this gap before potentially falling from there. All right, guys, bullish on oil. All right, over to SPY, and we got a nice opportunity for a drop, guys. We just had a change of character where we broke this low. All right, right here, and now we're pushing back into this fair value gap that it created. So if we get some rejection and then a bearish engulfing candle, or at least a few bear candles to show up from this area, we can take it short, looking to make about 155 points on SPY. All right, guys, I'm bearish on SPY. Right, and for NAS, right, same exact thing, right? So we had to change the character, right, and we broke, or we displaced, because there's a fair value gap here that broke this low. All right, so nice displacement. We retraced right back into it. We're at that fair value gap now, so this is a good area, right, to sell from, the fair value gap or the supply area, with your stops above the previous high, guys. You're looking at 620 points to the downside if you short it from these areas. NAS is looking good for the sell, bearish on NAS. All right, and last but not least, US 30, same MO. All right, we broke the high, made the new high, had the change, right, and now we're starting to pull back into this fair value gap, which I will be looking to short from. All right, all right, so there you can see, you can get it from the middle of the fair value gap, or push it above that to that supply area with a pretty nice stop, just giving it a little wiggle room above that high, and then we're looking to make 1,154 points on US 30, guys. Can really get you paid. All right, especially on a standard lot if you can swing that. All right, but for right now, I'm bearish on these indices, as I believe the dollar will rise throughout the week, so try to take advantage. All right, Dolphins disappointed me. It's all good. You know, UM did they thing. And, you know, hope y'all team win that Tampa Bay game with something, all right? That was a game to watch, all right? But, yeah, guys, you know, don't forget, like, comment, subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Get everybody in, all right? We all want to win, all right? It's your boy, and I'm out. Peace.
Wanna get money? Wanna get paid? Master Forex, like a sensei? Then you know you gotta come and swing my way. And if you wanna fast forward, hit replay.